Okay, so I'm going to look at a few questions from homework 8.3. So if we look at number 1, for example, we've got a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and we're supposed to solve for b, which means that we need to get b alone. So right now on the left-hand side, it's being added to a squared, so the opposite of adding would be subtracting, so subtract a squared from both sides. So that cancels the a squareds, and we're left with b squared equals c squared minus a squared. And then the opposite of square root, or of squaring, I'm sorry, is the square root. And so we take b squared, we square root that, is equal to c squared minus a squared, and we take the square root of that as well. When you do the square root of a variable like this, you have to take a plus or minus value, positive and negative values, because when you square it, that's what happens. If you look at, if I had x squared equals, let's say 4, x squared is a number times itself 2 times, and so when you take the square root of that, you're saying what number times itself would equal 4, and 2 times 2 equals 4, but also negative 2 times negative 2 equals 4, and for that reason we add the plus or minus when we're solving equations like this. So we get b equals plus or minus the square root of c squared minus a squared, and that would be the solution for number 1. And number 2, because we're solving for h, we have to keep in mind that in this case we have h here, and we also have h here, so we have 2 terms that have h in it. So we're going to start by taking away the term that doesn't have h in it, and then we'll go from there. So plus 2LW would be minus 2LW. And that would be S minus 2LW is equal to 2HL plus 2HW. And the 2LW cancels on the right-hand side. So now we've got these 2 terms that both have an h in it, so now we're going to factor to get that h out. We take h times, if I take the h out of the first term, I'm left with 2L. If I take the h out of the second term, I'm left with 2W. On the left-hand side, we still have S minus 2LW. So now that we've got the h out of it, we're multiplying h times the quantity 2L plus 2W. We can do the opposite of multiplying, which is dividing. So we divide by 2L plus 2W, and we do that on both sides. 2L plus 2W, that cancels over here, and then this then becomes the equation solved for h. Good morning, Valentina. So I'm going over homework 8.3. I just assigned it this morning, so you may not have had a chance to really look at it very well.
Let me see the homework canvas.
But I'm trying to do problems that are representative of what we're sort of looking at here. So, look at number 10. Y equals mx plus b. Can you see my screen, Valentina?
Oh, wait. Yes.
So I drew a little arrow towards x so that I remember that's the one that I want to get alone.
Okay.
And so y equals mx plus b. The opposite of adding b would be subtracting b. I want to start with that one because it doesn't have the x in it. And so I'm starting with the term without the variable in it.
Okay.
So subtract b from both sides of the equation of the equal sign. On the left hand, I get y minus b equals mx, because subtracting b removed the plus b from the right hand side. So then again, now I'm down to mx, and the opposite of multiplying by m would be dividing by m. And m divided by m is 1, so it cancels. And I'm left with x on the right. And on the left, I've got y minus b all divided by m. And that now is solved for x. And that's our final answer.
Okay. So how we can solve number 14?
Let's see. 14 is a good one to look at. Let's see. Okay, so here we're solving for t. Now, we see p, and we've got parentheses. And we've got a couple different options here. We could take p and multiply p times 1 and p times rt, but that actually doesn't make it any easier to solve. It just gives one more thing that we have connected to t. So to get rid of p, because it's outside the parentheses, it means it's multiplying everything in the parentheses. So the opposite of multiplying would be to divide by p. And that would cancel the p. So then on the left we have a divided by p is equal to 1 plus rt on the right. And just like we normally would do here, we're trying to solve for t. So we're going to start with the term here that doesn't have the t with it, the 1. And because 1 is being added, the opposite would be subtract. So we've got a over p minus 1 is equal to r times t. Finally, because r is being being multiplied, by t, the opposite is divide. So we're going to divide by r. T then is equal to a over p minus 1, and all of that's divided by r. Which we could rewrite this as a over pr minus 1 over r, and just divide each one of these terms by r. And that would be equal to t. I think we have time for one more. What do you think, Valentina?
Let me see my homework one moment. Okay. Number 15.
All right, number 15 it is. Okay, so on number 15, we're solving for x. And all of this, x, y cubed, z to the fourth, is all under this square root sign. So we need to get rid of that square root sign before we can start removing the other elements. So the opposite of square root is squaring. And so we start by squaring both sides. D squared equals the square root x, y cubed, z to the fourth. And we square that. When we square it, it cancels the square root and the square. So then we'd be left with d squared equals x, y cubed, z to the fourth. Now we've got x, and it's in this term with y cubed and z to the fourth, and the operation that unites all three of those three letters and their exponents is multiplication. And so the opposite of multiplying is dividing, so we're going to divide by both y cubed and z to the fourth. If we're doing it on the right, we have to do it on the left as well, so that'd be d squared divided by y cubed z to the fourth. That cancels over here, leaving only x. So basically we're done. Just going to rewrite it. X is equal to d squared over y cubed z to the fourth. Okay. I think I'm going to stop there. I've given you enough between the initial video that I made in the instruction and this one, where I've gone over specific homework problems. But if you're stuck and you want some help, my number is 801 413 3363, and that's my Google Voice number. You can call me or text me and say, hey, I need some help, and and we can either meet on another meeting, or I can call you and talk it through on the phone, however works best for us. Okay. Thank you for coming, Victoria, Valentina. You all have a nice rest of your day. Be safe. Be good.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Yeah, have a nice day.
You too.
You